Morning,
Hi.
Kate.
Good
Can you?
morning. Yes, I can hear you. That's great.
Great. Great to see you.
Good to see you too.
You're in
Thanks
Paris?
for that. Yes, I'm in Paris, and it's been very, very nice over here.
Yeah. You how long have you been in Paris now for?
It's been 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I moved here from New York, kind of over Corona stuff.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I moved to Berlin for pretty much from COVID.
from New York as well.
Yeah.
Or yeah,
I was already going back and forth a little bit
yeah,
before
same,
that.
same.
And during COVID I just really didn't have a reason to go back yet. Didn't really feel like it.
Yeah. I understand. I went twice, like a year after in April, just to see what's up.
Yeah.
And the energy was kind of low, but I went again like 2 months ago, and it was way nicer even in New York. Like it's kind of more uplifted, and I feel like people started to come back to the city. So,
Yeah.
but I'm actually enjoying to be in Europe, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
missing US for now.
No, it's a crazy time. It's a crazy
Yeah.
time. But hey, we didn't see each other for like I was just thinking when we last saw each other, it was like when I photographed you, like
Yeah, it was like 1,000 years ago,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But I was kind of surprised to still. I was like, oh, it's Kate, and you've been also watching me for all this time.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I've been loving your work.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I think it's great. You are kind of pointing out on some social issues, which I think has a place to talk about. And yeah, it's just nice, very refreshing.
Well, that's nice
We
to hear.
usually, yeah.
That's really nice to hear
Yes.
because it hasn't been super fun, to be honest. With all the things that's happened, and it's
But
yeah. I mean, when I thought back about it too, because I think I was introduced to you. I think actually from Gina,
yeah,
all the way back, who in the end tried to deport me and sue me. Yeah, I had to sue them. They stole money from me.
no way.
Yeah, that was part of my big stress and everything because they stole $100,000 and lied to me, and
This is crazy.
she embezzled like I think close to $1 million from a lot of people and taxes. She got done for tax fraud. I think she's now in Switzerland dealing art or some crap. Changed her name, everything. Full on psychopath.
No way.
Yeah, and they tried to deport me, and so that was like a huge stress factor during that period of my life, and yeah.
This is crazy. Wow, I'm like so impressed.
And so yeah, that was also like, I mean, there's nothing to do with you, obviously, but I felt like there was just so much stuff during that period, and people related, and a lot of stuff with fashion. Like, just I got burned by a lot of people in fashion, so I was really, it was quite upsetting for me. And but anyway,
Like, of course, I can imagine.
yeah. I mean, the reason I say I'm surprised. I mean, sure, I can also believe that I'm quite an interesting person and people might be into my stuff. But I was surprised more, I guess, in the sense that it's like, I don't know, like how to say it, like people working in fashion usually. I mean, I lost a lot of followers, a lot of good friends. I lost a lot of people close to me working, especially in fashion. A lot of people got angry for me to just speak my truth and my experiences.
Yeah,
But
I understand. But yeah, it's one of this industry which doesn't like to face the truth or honesty whatsoever. So, I'm not surprised to be honest.
But why is it like why did you stick around and why were you interested? Is it because you're Ukrainian and because of, like, you see some things, or like what's the connection here?
I don't know. It's more like feeling based. It's not like I'm like investigating every profile I follow, but
Sure.
with you, I had like a lot of stories which I personally could relate to or be interested in. And again, like many people don't really speak up. So, it's very refreshing. And, I'm like trying to, I work in fashion, but it's not like, it's not a sense of my life in some way. You know what I mean? I don't see myself growing only in this industry, and I believe that later on in my life there will be something else, which like another direction I will go for. Obviously, for many reasons, it's convenient for me, because I have entire family. Modeling pays my bills, so yeah, it was just made sense for me at that period of time, you know. But that's exactly why I also was a little fed up of being in New York, because I feel like people are even more superficial than in Europe.
Yeah.
Obviously, here you can find that as well. But I feel like Paris, for example, is way more honest, and people are more honest with you. They're more direct. They don't sneak behind your back. They'd rather say everything in your face, which I personally started to appreciate,
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. You know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was what? How did you go into the other direction?
Sorry.
No worries.
Coughed on the coffee. No, well, I mean, I was kind of earning pretty hard. I was doing, I mean, for me to stay in the US, I had to. I don't know if you also had to do this, but to become a alien with extraordinary abilities or whatever they call it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
It's my fourth one already, so
yeah,
I know that.
so I had to really like perform to make sure I can do all that, which is kind of cool, I guess, but to get me to overachieve. But the problem was that I also took on a lot of things that were not necessarily good for me or that I didn't want to do. And then, like the thing that happened with Gina and Noah, like them stealing, like, like lying to my face. I felt so naive. Like, I was like, hey,
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. Like, these clients usually pay on time. They're like, yeah, it's weird. They just didn't pay. And it was just so crazy to see somebody for months and they just keep saying one thing and then I discover it was complete lies and hearing from my
but yeah.
lawyer that you know they try to put in papers to have me deported, all of these crazy stuff. And so after that period, I mean, that's only one of many things. I mean, I'm sure you
So
have.
when was it? Wait a second. When exactly was it?
I discovered that they filed, basically at that time I was still on an O1 visa and
Yeah.
I was transitioning to go onto a green card. And during that transition phase, I was still kind of dependent on them.
Yeah.
That was a really awful construct.
Yeah.
And so that was 2017,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
around that
No, I
time.
was still there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, beginning of 2017. And yeah, I was transitioning from away from them. And because there's just a lot of things I didn't like about them that was not on top, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
with working within, I would say, fashion and advertising, like there was a lot of just, I mean, overt racism, I would say, and I think that really affected me. I'm still working through it right now, but that was, I did it. It was incredible how long I did it. And now I just kind of fed up. And I guess the best part was that I ran out of jobs.
Yeah, I understand.
Like it was actually awful when I kept getting jobs, and it was kind of, I was like, it was a trauma bonding. I kept getting a lot of money from people that were blatantly racist towards me
Yeah.
and would say a lot of awful things, and I would have to just put up with it because, and that was difficult for my psyche to deal with because at the same time I was getting money, but at the same time, yeah, I would gaslight myself, like now
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
back when I don't have the jobs and I have time to think and research a lot and understand psychology, and I'm like, oh, that was fucked up. Like those
Right, yeah.
people did not like me. Those people, had a different thing, and I just associated that as like normal. Yeah, and so in Berlin, with COVID, just not having jobs, not having connections, and even
Having
talk
some time off as well,
some
no?
time off, and
That was great.
I just did a lot of reading. And then I started a podcast. I talked to different people. I just talked to a lot of people outside of my usual
Circle, yeah.
relationships, and so that kind of made me just realize a lot. And then slowly, it was just more and more difficult to unsee a lot of that violence and unsee a lot of that structure.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it just, and then the more I studied, the more ridiculous a lot of things felt. And now to the point where it's like it's hard to I mean, it's if someone wants to give me money, I'm open. I don't
Obviously.
I don't care.
Why shouldn't you be? Yeah.
I mean, I'll speak, but I'll still take the money. But it's not that I'm actively bending over backwards pursuing things and people that doesn't serve me. So it's
No,
a
of
funny
course.
thing.
I'm actually very surprised, because US felt, I mean, you see, for me, it's less visible because, I'm a white girl. And it always felt like, with all the, anti-racism movement, right? I would expect that it changes, especially like, 2017 is just like 3 years before the whole, even Black Lives Matter, which was a massive, I feel like massive thing in US. I mean, it's not like going anywhere, obviously, but I just always felt like New York is more open-minded in that way. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's bizarre.
No, I've been looking, just reflecting back over the years and seeing like, and it's, this is completely my own observational bias of just my view and my experiences of people. But yeah, even interacting with white people or white women, there's like some people from certain regions that's like, okay, they're probably not gonna give me a good vibe. And then there are people, I would say,
But
like
yeah, right.
Slavic people, or even like just slightly more Eastern European. I feel more chill, and if it's like,
Yeah, because there is no concept like racism. It kind of doesn't exist, Like, because we don't really, like, it's not about the skin color, right? It's more
right,
about like, oh, I'm Ukrainian, I'm a Bulgarian, I'm something else, It's like a kind of country based, It's not like there are more people, more like even black people right now in Ukraine. Not right now, obviously, but like I started to notice it like for past few years.
right,
And what I even like I remember we were walking with my daughter and she was like, "Wow, I was going like back from school and I saw this guy. He was so black, like black. She was just like a kid, right? Explaining me that she saw like a creature which is different, even though like she'd been to US before, But it's kind of surprising to see a very dark skinned person walking down the street in Kiev, like in the neighborhood, which is not necessarily like center of the city, right? Like just like a sleeping area. And she was like, she was like, I felt so bad. I was like looking at him, but I was not staring at him because he's black. I was just genuinely discovering, like, and he had these beautiful blue eyes, and she was like really excited about it. So it's really not the same point of view whatsoever,
Hmm.
So yeah, I believe that. I mean, and sometimes I even notice like people of older generations, like even Ukrainians or like anyone else from East Europe. It's interesting because they don't even realize they can say something racist, but like
Right.
very innocent. They don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
understand, you know.
No,
They
it
it's
takes
not in the kind of on the horizon, you know. It's interesting.
it takes
I
time
noticed it
to
many times.
learn all of this stuff.
Of
There's
course,
just
especially
basic
we
things that
never experienced, you know, like slavery, like US or anything like that. You know what I mean?
right.
Like it's never been the case. We had our own problems, you know. Like now, for example,
Yeah.
they let us where Ukraine is right now, and it's horrifying. And obviously, because of the war in my country, I'm also more conscious about what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Not like I never was. It's more like I feel like this changes your life forever. And even though I don't live in Ukraine for a long time, I go there all the time. I spent the entire like 2020 in Ukraine, like pretty much. So I left US. I was in Europe for work. Like there was Fashion Week in Paris, and then I had a couple of jobs like in Germany and in Greece. And then I already sensed like it was already like many talks about corona and epidemic and
Mm.
everything. And I was like, okay, well, from day to another, they're going to shut down the borders. And what am I going to do? My entire family is in Ukraine. So I just left like US behind. I didn't even take any, like I was in Europe. I didn't prepare, you know, nothing. Then I went to Kiev, and like in 2 days, they closed shut down the borders. So there were no flights, no nothing. And I was so happy that I was with my family confining for 3 months. And then I pretty much stayed there out of a year. I don't know, 10 months. Maybe for 2 months, I was like, you know, like a few times a month, I would fly for a few days to work somewhere. Like once, like the flights were reopened. But Ukraine is a beautiful country, and I deeply love Kiev and my entire family. I just brought my daughter here, like to live with me for the first time in like past 10 years, you know. She was
Wow.
mostly with my mom. We were traveling back and forth, which was, you know, which was great. I was doing my thing. I was building my career because I'm financially support. Like my entire family is financially dependent on me, so I kind of didn't have a choice. And my mom obviously is an amazing woman. She helped me so much with my kids. But then, you know, I planned to move my kids this year, like this summer, to Paris. So I'm one of the privileged ones because I basically did exactly what I planned just 4 months earlier than I planned it. So I was kind
Mm.
of mentally prepared, and I already had like, you know, I already thought about it, how it would look like. Obviously, I wasn't planning to bring my mom and her boyfriend, you know, like it was like kind of crazy story. But yeah, I brought all of them like 10 days before the war started.
Oh my God.
So technically, you know, if I was not aware of, you know, the situation in the world, I could not make it, you know, before the flights were shut down. And then I was even thinking to myself, I was like, okay, what if, and everyone was like, Kate, you're overreacting, like nothing gonna happen, like it's been like this forever, it's not. And I was like, guys, listen, maybe I'm overreacting, but I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
then what if something happens? The war starts. How exactly I'm gonna get them out of Ukraine? You know? So it was more like this. Obviously, a lot of my friends left even after the war started. Like the first few days and like first few weeks, like, you know, everyone did the way like, you know, um, how they were able to, and it was possible. But again, like it's like cars and trains and stuff and the people, and there was like the first few weeks was insane because so many people left. So yeah, and I feel like this obviously changed my perception of the world entirely. Even more, even more
Mm.
now.
How's it been with talking with people about it, and like, are you dealing also with a lot of people that have different point of views and fighting about it?
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm usually not aggressive in any like discussions. I'm always trying to be like diplomatic, and I'm like not attacking my Russian friends because they're Russian, right? But obviously, I had so many clashes already with people who are just ignorant. So I cannot really blame them for that. They're just ignorant. So that when I cannot I cannot hear people talking without really knowing situation in depth. It's kind of always very annoying. But overall, I have to say that when it just started, I was in Paris and people were very supportive. I guess that maybe the first month, I was like paralyzed completely. I didn't work. I was just mostly like staying with my family and embracing the fact that they're here with me, and obviously like sleeping 3 hours a night, like always on the news. You just get caught up in this cycle. And I've been already before because I was kind of trying to predict. If, since like last summer, when I heard the first time like that they are dragging the troops on the borders, that was already a sign for me that okay, this is just a matter of time, and when they're gonna feel strong, they're gonna attack. There is like no way that Putin would just say like, okay, guys, look, great hanging out at the borders. Now we all can go home, and I understand like how much money and finances, and the trainings and everything to spend on it. So it's kind of was like I sensed that there is like no way back. And then in December there was another. In October they got more troops. In December there was more. In January, it's basically from like 30,000 in summer, it grew to like 120. So by the time I was in Ukraine actually for New Year's Eve, and I stayed there till 15th of January, even 16th, and it felt like it didn't feel like anything. You were just like, okay, it's normal life. People are out, things are happening. Like even though like there were already 130,000 troops, on the borders, so everyone really didn't want to believe in it. And then but by I got to Paris, and like within like next 2 weeks, I was already kind of mentally preparing. And then 14th, like on Valentine's Day, I brought my entire family here, and on 24th of February, the war started. So Paris was supportive. People seemed aware. I feel like French people in general are very much, educated, and they understand the like geopolitics, and they kind of it was refreshing to speak to most part of my friends. But then if I would take just like a regular person, like on the job, especially like from not French people, but more, I don't know, like even like Spanish or Venezuela. I remember I worked with a team. They just don't understand anything. You know what I mean? It's just so frustrating. And I'm like, don't even ask me questions, because like I can explain you something, right? But their replies were so kind of diminishing, and they just so not aware. So I'm trying to avoid this kind of conversation, to be honest, with people who don't understand.
What do you do in that situation? Do you just walk away? I mean, you're on the same job.
Yeah, I'm just basically just shifting the subject. Yeah, because it's just because otherwise I would snap, and then there is no work, and I will walk out of set. So I obviously don't want to be in this kind of drama. But yeah, I had clients who were having like a lunch break, and they were like, "Oh my god, we have to post something about Ukraine," and I'm like, "Have to?" Like, honestly, and then like, Kate suggests me, what should we write? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you don't have to post anything or write anything unless you feel that way. Like, do you even know what what's going on. It's just so superficial. Again, it's just so on the on the first layer. And for many people, it was just like, I guess, same as like Black Lives Matter. Just post a black square, and you're like, okay, I can get on with my life in some way, which is, I mean, this is a kind of like a modern world we live in. And, now it's been 4 months, and now I swear nobody's talking. Nobody's. I mean, people who didn't see me all this time, yeah, of course they will ask, how was your family, or how are you, or how was it been, but it's not in the news anymore, it's not on the front page anymore, it's really like kind of silently going away as if it was something trendy to talk about, which, yeah, I guess it was, when something gets into mainstream, it gets really, really picked up. The first, maybe, okay, the first 2 months, but then, people just, and I understand, it's not even their fight. So.
It is until it isn't.
Yeah.
It's kind of just running on adrenaline, but
yeah, exactly.
which I think that's what's so frustrating, because a lot of issues is not really based on immediate reactions and has long-term consequences. But I remember seeing the conflict in 2012 in Kiev. It just really disturbed me already, and I remember going to Kiev for a photo shoot, and yeah, it was wild. It was wild too. I mean, this was in 2018 that I think I was it 2018 or 2019? Maybe 2018. I don't remember very well, but I was in Kiev, and it was intense because the hotel we stayed at I mean, most of it was for production and a lot of people in advertising, and they had money, all this kind of stuff, and then the other half was all military people. It was all like generals, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? What's everybody getting busy with? Yeah, and it was
they
just
they knew
yeah,
way before everyone
there's a lot in
knew.
planning. I mean, yeah, for me, I was born in Taiwan, and it's very
Yes,
similar, Taiwan,
of
China,
course, of course.
and so yeah, this whole thing about, my mother did the same thing. Like, Taiwan had for a while, it had the record for the longest martial law in the world, until another country, I forgot which one, took over. But in the 80s and 90s, my mom she got our family out of Taiwan, and we went to Australia for the same reason, just preparing.
Yeah,
Like, it's like, okay, I think war is coming, and you don't know, and if it happens, you'd be okay, good, we made a choice. If it doesn't, then people are still like, oh, see, I told you, don't worry. But it's like, no, I mean, it's always better to
yeah, it's
be
always
secure.
better. Yeah, that's what I thought as well. And to be honest, I've been so grateful for that since then.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't not, if if obviously I was thinking about this when the war just started, if I wouldn't be able to get my family out, I would obviously go back. There is no way on earth I can be far away from when it's just I couldn't be able to do it. Just like doing my thing. And I had some friends who, like, the mother was here and her kid was stuck in Ukraine and stuff. And oh my God, if that was my situation, I would be there like the next day. I don't care how would I get there. And obviously, thanks God, I'm a girl, so I can go in and out, and I'm not under like mobilization law, right? But yeah, it was such a relief that my family was here with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, even though like I have many friends who are coming back to Kiev now because they have their life there, I don't, and I don't know, even of course. I would love to go and visit and see some people, but to be honest, most part of my friends left. So they're all over the world, basically. Somebody is like in Italy. Most part of my friends are in Berlin, obviously, for obvious reasons. I feel like Berlin gives a lot of support, like on a social level, because they went through that before.
Yeah.
But they were on the other side, so like they're still kind of repelling for it in a way. But so Berlin obviously it was great, and it's way more things happening there for support. But there yeah, you see Ukrainian flag once in a while. You see like press. There are a few spots where people gathering for the protests, but it's really not the same scale, right? Like in Poland or
Yeah, well,
Berlin or
countries that
Lithuania,
are
even. Yeah,
that's
exactly,
on the edge of it. They're definitely more worried.
exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. But everyone just get on with their life. I guess it's also the other way to appreciate your life more. I don't know. It's quite complex. I feel like I even noticed. So first month I was like out. Then I realized that okay, few more weeks like that, and I will have a burn down and like nervous breakdown. And honestly, like it's no good. And my family is here, and I have way more responsibilities, and obviously their financial situation, the money I spend to sustain them in Ukraine is very much not the same as to sustain them in Europe. So I was like, okay, well, I need to work if I want to, keep on, with my life. So it becomes like a background, the war. Sometimes you shift this focus back, but then you have other things which kind of drags you out of it. Like I had to find a school, paperwork, nina, find a place for my family, apply for jobs, figure out who is gonna pick her. It's all gonna. It was kind of like all quite a hassle to organize everything here. So if even for me I move on, then of course Europeans or not, like somebody who's this war doesn't concern directly, of course they move on as well.
Yeah. But it's nice to have a family to care for too, to kind of give you a purpose and
Of course.
direct that energy. I feel like you look like you've got kind of good training, and I sometimes even get a bit scared to, that moment when you have time to stop and to kind of let loose a bit, but then that's when all the emotions kind of flood back, and it's quite a lot to deal with.
Yeah. If I believe that if I hadn't have all of that, but again, I wouldn't be in Paris. I probably would be in Kiev.
Right.
If my family was still there. But so yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's been 4 months, and now it's already kind of set in. And you kind of finally took it, not on an adrenaline rush, but like seriously. And I still cannot believe that this is happening. There's so many.
Do you think you'll go back to the US again?
No, only for work or anything. No. I'm not planning to live there.
Right.
Again. No. No, I'm good here.
Yeah.
And I feel like throughout.
Sorry?
Yeah. I feel like throughout Corona and all the confinements and stuff, I kind of finally learned how is it to say no to things which I don't want to do or don't need to do or don't feel like doing, And that was a very liberating experience because, in US it's so hard. Like it's almost the entire city is pressuring you into making decisions and choices which you not necessarily want to make because you either are a prisoner of your ultra expensive apartment or your agent's pressuring you or, because they don't really care. They don't really care about anything. They just care about making money out of you. Even though like it's supposed to be different, right? My agency is supposed to be someone whom I hire, whom I decide, right? I mean, the dynamic is supposed to be that. And obviously, when I was smaller and less experienced, I was not realizing it to that extent, because you're always like, oh, trying to be very careful. And I'm walking on the eggshells, and I had this kind of crazy booker who was like really manipulating me into things, like, saying mean things, like like a toxic boyfriend. Like,
Yes, yes. It's a pimp.
yeah, it was even worse. And I was like, so, and then at some point he left, and I was already like, could like normally breathe, and then I feel like that I already found like myself again and my balance and how I want to deal with my work. And since I didn't have a very close connections to anyone in like my agency, I could just be like more kind of doing my thing. But then over confinement, it really got to me what it means when you say no and how important it is, because you cannot do all the jobs, or you cannot be constantly on this like high energy like New York style, because it's basically just leading you to burnout. It's just a one way road. And it was just so much nicer to got that in my head, and then come to Europe and have a way more healthier relationship, with career, with job, with life in general. I feel like I'm enjoying my life here, and I feel like even if I don't do a few jobs, like it's not gonna be life changing, because I don't pay like $4,000 for apartments.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I feel like, it's almost like made by purpose, like that in the US.
Absolutely.
So you just want more all the time, and this is just so unhealthy. It's insane.
I'm
I feel
curious.
like I even became a nicer person, since
Yeah.
I moved to Europe.
I'm curious how it's going to sustain itself now, and the system is not really functioning anyway.
But yeah, and the inflation right now, like when I was in US 2 months ago, the prices just like escalated, like from like day to another. Even like you can see with everything, like apartments, rents, restaurants, everything just like crazy.
So what's you said you also have some ideas for the coming period as well, and having your family to sustain, and also dealing with the war. What do you have in mind? What's kind of driving you in the coming period?
I never been a person who was planning things in advance, but with war it feels even less, less possible. So I mean, how would I know how it's going to be in 1 month and everything? And I just prefer to kind of live in the moment, and I feel like it just makes me feel more secure, rather than like all the plans which so many people had just were in the window. So why bother? So no, it's just very short-term destinations, where I want to arrive. I was just saying more that I believe that the moment I will find a project, or have like a deep, strong interest for something outside of fashion, I will totally go for it. But again, I feel very comfortable even in doing my job, but then stepping aside and having friends around, and like other crew who are not related to industry whatsoever. And people are more real.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess no big plans, just short-term plans.
Just surviving is a big deal already. Keeping the family safe.
Yeah, exactly.
You can be happy.
And I still need to. That's for sure. And I still need to obviously organize a lot. So, voila.
Oh, it was very nice seeing you.
Yes, it was a pleasure.
And it's thanks to all this
social media,
and, to be able to pick it up after all these years. It's funny how sometimes relationships with people can kind of it's just goes in and out, and time is funny like that.
Yeah, you know, it's even with like close people, it can happen like that. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I had a, you know, I've been having some during the COVID with another friend. I just have my little YouTube channel that's it's more for me for fun, and I sometimes I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, who's watching this? But my friend, he also loves. I mean, I also love it. But he told me that a friend of his that he lost touch with like 7 years ago has been watching our show, and they fell off their relationship like 7 years ago, and they had a big fight. But then this guy's been watching the show, and he reached out back to my friend, and they reconnected, and the guy apologized and kind of said like, well, I start to understand you more and see your view. And so, I mean, in a way, I guess it's also, maybe that's deep down unconscious reason that I'm doing it, like with a lot of people that I can't have that direct conversation because maybe we're both too triggering for each other. And so we can't just calmly express our experiences, but hopefully like these kind of things, you know, if people watch it, it's there. And
Yeah, sometimes you know, sometimes it's just like this when you get into this circle of miscommunication, and you know, one thing drags another thing, and then it just becomes like a snowball, and it's like, you know, like you kind of it's hard to untangle it again, you know, at some point. And you know, you can like it's like you're kind of ending up beating your head on the wall. It's like almost feels like that. And I believe that maybe like, you know, inside the kind of I mean, I can see why it could happen that way. You know, you see this person again, you realize how familiar he is to you, how, you know, that he's still this person, you know, because after fights, people tend to, you know, dematerialize the person. Like, this, okay, I feel this way, and this person doesn't feel anything, and he is not human, like dehumanize, you know, almost. But then when you kind of open your mind to hear what the person's saying, you realize, okay, actually this person also had feelings. He probably also suffered from our miscommunication or breakup or whatever, you know. So, well, keep doing what you're doing, huh?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you still, checking it out, and to have this conversation. I hope your family stays safe, and
Thank you.
Maybe it would be nice to see you if I come to Paris or if you come to Berlin.
Yes, please let me know. I was just about to say, I actually go to Berlin sometimes.
Cool, yeah.
Obviously, always for like 2 days for work. But if I come, I'll let you know.
That'd be great. It'd be great to see you and meet your daughter as well.
Yes, oh, she's so cool. She's so cool. Yeah, I'm proud.
All right, Cate.
All right.
You have a good day. And
yes, you too.
We'll keep in touch.
Yes, absolutely.
Stay safe.
Yes, you too. Have a good one.